And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips along with Ed Smith. Got Pistons, Tigers, and Red Wings to talk about, so let's get down to the Pistons first. What a quick mention before we get to the free agent signing and NBA draft predictions. They they hired former wasn't he a former former Phoenix Suns assistant coach, Jarrett Jack by name. He's going to be the assistant coach under Monty Williams. I know he has before. Yeah, he's yeah.
Yes, that'll be correct. In fact,
Yep.
he's among multiple people that Monty's bringing over from his staff in Phoenix. But we'll get to that momentarily.
Yep. All right. So the NBA draft is coming soon, and so is the free agency span this off season. Right after the Denver Nuggets finish off the Miami Heat in 5 games of the NBA Finals.
With notable former Pistons, by the way,
Yes,
Bruce
Ish
Brown,
Smith and
Contavious
Contavious
Caldwell
Caldwell
Pope,
Pope.
and Bruce
Yes,
Brown. Do not forget Bruce Brown. Oh
Bruce
God.
Brown. Yes, that's
Mm,
three. That's a hat
mm.
trick.
Oh yeah, I think. Who else did they have? Who else did they have? I think they also had. Didn't DeAndre Jordan used to play for the Pistons for a little bit for like a brief,
DeAndre
for
Jordan.
like a cup of coffee?
Hmm. I can hardly
I
remember
could
him
I could be
playing.
mistaken, but we might have been waived or whatever. But yeah, there's at least three or if not four former Pistons
If
that
so,
are
he didn't
now
get much
NBA
playing time.
champions.
Probably.
Yeah, well, it was not needed the way Jokic was tearing things up, but still, that's now three at least three, if not four, former Pistons that have won championships, courtesy of being on the Nuggets. I don't know whether to laugh or scream at that news.
Right. But yeah. Anyway, the NBA draft is coming soon, and so is the free agency season. So I'm pretty sure you got some names worth at least mentioning. So we'll start with the draft predictions first, and then we'll go to free agency.
Well, if,
Go
if
ahead.
need be, before I even get started with the draft predictions, I wanted to touch topic a little bit more so on the coaching staff. It basically confirms the names that we had talked about before in last week's episode. The Free Press reported it a few days ago, I believe, that in addition to Jarrett Jack joining Monty Williams, more people that was on his staff in Phoenix. Names like Mark Bryant, for example, as well as Brian Randall, Mark Bryant, and Steve Scalzi. Those were the people that were on Williams' staff in Phoenix. They will be joining him in Detroit. As you all heard at Monty Williams' press conference, you heard the name Stephen Silas being mentioned specifically. You heard Williams go in depth into what Silas means or what he represents to him. That's why he's on the staff as well. So your assistant coaches are pretty much set in Burke and Silas in terms of who's going to be helping being your conductors for the offense and the defense. Um, Jarrett Jack is on there as well. I think it's worth noting that there was a short video clip of Cade Cunningham dapping up with Jarrett Jack right before Williams was introduced at his press conference. So that was all the confirmation you need to know right then and there. I mentioned before of how some people view Jarrett Jack with his role in terms of being there for connecting with players, being the right developing branch for what the players can be off the court as well. So I think it's very nice that you're getting the best of both worlds with what you're trying to do in terms of develop skill on the court and develop character off the court as well. I think there was other notable names as well. I think the Free reported this. Yes, Jamel McMillan and Spencer Rivers. Jamel McMillan is Nate McMillan's son. Spencer Rivers is the son of Doc Rivers. So varying levels and combining levels of experience between your top and assistant coaches and some of the lower level coaches as well. Some have multi layers of years of experience, hence why we see the Dan Burks, Stephen Silas's, and the Monty Williams, of course, amongst as the head of that staff. While the lower levels of the staff, you see Jared Jack, and I mentioned before with Rivers and McMillan. So I like the balance of what it brings out in terms of the coaching staff to try and see and develop more and more we can get out of this team so they can go where we want to go and get where they want to get. Now, in terms of, excuse me, free agency and the draft, the Pistons could go many ways. We saw how they went last year in terms of spending money. Didn't quite work out to their best benefit. You could say maybe, hey, do you want to try going after Jeremy Grant this year? Potentially, sure, why not? Um, I could also see a Cam Johnson potentially as well, but he is a restricted free agent. So you got to remember the market is not really uh, big out there in terms of guys that we want for team needs, um, and that are also unrestricted free agents. Because some teams or some targets that fans may want or would like, they're RFAs. They already got contracts with teams, and I'm willing to bet you most of them, if not all those teams, will be willing to match any reasonable offer that comes on that or that comes up on a sheet. So that goes to what the Pistons have to do in terms of spending money reasonably. You can't be throwing money, here, there, and everywhere. Especially when in a couple years or so, you got guys that you got to sign to their max deals, i.e. Cade, i.e. Jaden Ivey. So you got to be smart in terms of what you do with your money now, so that you have enough to do what you got to do later. Now, in terms of the draft itself, I see it going down as simple as this: unless the Pistons are dealing that pick in some sort of move to get a mega deal. Like I saw an ESPN hypothetical trade earlier this week saying, hey, if the Pistons do this, like say they partner uh, Bogdanovich, a fifth round pick at the very minimum, and like a three-team deal, they can get Zion Williamson. And that's all, pie in the sky, nice and dandy written on paper. But I seriously doubt, something of that could have happened to where we get the gem of the deal, while other teams get draft picks and other stuff. And I just don't see that happening. And B, would we even have enough capital to pull that off? And will we have the money in terms of paying what we got to pay Zion, in addition to other people? So again, nice thing to think about, but I just don't see that as being realistic. So in terms of what you want to do, if you're not trading that pick, then you pretty much got to split the player, right?
Right.
So I see it being one of two guys, especially if it's depending on what Houston does. Because remember, the Rockets pick at 4. Now, if the Pistons were at number 4, were in that top 4 or 3, then I would definitely say, hey, try to use that pick and go get Zion. Do what you can do. But since we're at number 5, I'd be more than willing to say that, hey, more than likely we're just going to stay put and we're going to pick. And in terms of who we're going to pick, depending on what Houston does, I would say either it's going to be Cam Whitmore or what was it? The other kid's name, Walker, Jakari Walker or something. Jarris Walker, excuse me. So
Yeah.
either Jarris Walker or Cam Whitmore. I would be leaning more towards Cam Whitmore, but if he's gone, then I'd say Jarris Walker would be the most likely option.
Yeah. That would be logical. So, yeah, we did mention earlier Jarrett Jack being the final assistant coach to round of the Pistons coaching staff under Monty Williams. Also,
Oh,
earlier he also hired Stephen Silas
mhm.
before Jarrett Jack. So
Yeah. And
yes,
by the way, you did. Thank you for mentioning Monty Williams' name again, because it just reminded me to make this important note, that the reason why Monty Williams was considering taking a break from coaching, as he revealed in his press conference, was that his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. So, in terms of dealing with all that, he considered taking a break to deal with, help his wife deal with this issue. Thankfully, they did catch it early, so she's doing it as fine as possible. And while this was going on, Troy Weaver and the Pistons, they were keeping in touch, and also being considerate of the situation. And when it came, find out that, hey, it was going to be he was going to be able to be available to coach this year. Not only did they offer him, obviously you saw what they offered him with the money, but also the incentives and the accommodations, such as giving him the efficient access, like private jet access, something like that, to for his wife, or even his wife to accompany on games, or for him to go see his wife whenever she's having treatment, or resting or healing or recovering. So That much, which by the way reminds me, ironic I say I mentioned Doc Rivers since his son is on the staff. It reminds me of the story back in 2000, I want to say, when Tim Duncan was a free agent. Yeah, this had to have been 2000 because this was the same year that Grant Hill went to the Magic. Doc Rivers was trying, since he was just hired as the head coach of the Magic, he was trying to put together a big three. He got two of the three in Grant Hill and Trace McGrady. He almost got the third in Tim Duncan. And some say if he had just said yes to whatever Tim Duncan had requested, i.e., letting his family travel on private, team facilities or coming to games, if Doc Rivers had said yes to that, Tim Duncan might have left San Antonio. So it's quite ironic that I mention or that I think about that because that's just what that situation reminded me of, to where the Pistons, they get the guy that they want by making sure he has this accommodation. So I thought it was very nice, very classy by the organization to do that. Um, and very good to hear about from Monty Williams' wife in that situation.
Yeah. So that is a good comparison between Monty Williams and Doc Rivers. So, anything else to add in terms of the Pistons before we move on to Tigers?
Um, Not that I can think of. Is in terms of yeah, pretty much that about covers it. Now, if we find out somehow that the Pistons are going to sign for this guy or trade for this guy, that's just out of hindsight. But yeah, I think we're all set to
Yeah.
cover for them.
All right. The Tigers have taken three out of four from the first place Minnesota Twins, and we see why. The Twins are now 36 and 36. The AL Comedy
Hmm.
Central, everyone's aware of that. Tigers are 30 and 40. Not a terrible record in everyone's eyes. Third place in the American League Comedy Central division standings, 5 games back. There are 4 teams still in that race for first in that AL Comedy Central division. But the Tigers still hold the fourth worst record in the entire American League and seventh worst record in all of Major League Baseball. So yeah, Javier Baez has 10 errors, but he had himself a decent series against the Twins. He had a couple great games, including a 2-run triple, a 3-run home run,
Hmm.
and then another RBI triple in at earlier today.
Yeah, and
And
there was another game also where he and Matt Vierling, and I'll get to him in a second, had multi-hit, multi-run games at the
yeah,
same
that was
game in the
Friday.
same game. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Vierling. He Matt Vierling was out today due to lower back spasms, but I don't think he's going to be that out that was going to be out that long anyway.
I
But the
think it's just
Tigers
gonna be
won
day
without him anyway.
right. I think it's gonna be day to day for Vierling, but it was good to see him come back this week. He had 3 home runs, including two against Minnesota.
Yeah,
I think his presence was deeply needed in the lineup, considering he hadn't played since May 28th. So it was good to see him come back with a vengeance. You mentioned the Twins' record. I just find it's quite apropos that this is named the AL Comedy Central for a reason. Because what other division in baseball can you say that the division leader has a 500 record and we're midway through June?
oh,
They, yeah, but I will say though that in terms of for the Tigers' sake, their offense did come alive in this past week. There was a point where I think if not five, at least five, if not 6 straight games, they scored at least 5 runs or more. It started essentially it was bookended basically this week by Spencer Torkelson. Tork hit a home run. He basically was the Kickstarter for that rally and comeback walk off win against the Braves, where he tied it in the ninth and then won it in the 10th, and or at least like I said, he didn't tie it, but he was like I said, kickstarted the offense and then
short
ended it
tied the
with
game with an RBI
yeah.
single in the
Thank you
ninth.
for that correction. That's what I meant. But Torkelson did end it with the walk off hit in the 10th, and then he comes in
Single.
today. Yeah, walk off hit, and then he comes in today, hits another home run. So it shows that he's still learning. That you see that he's developing strong, nicely as
Yes,
well. You want to
correct.
see that from your farm prospects. Um, I mentioned Vierling. You mentioned Javi Baez. Yes, unfortunately, he has the 10 errors, but he did have a
7
good
which are throwing,
series.
3 are fielding.
Yeah, but he did have a good series, at least against Minnesota. But I don't know. It's just, I think this is going to be who Javi is at this point. It's the best we can hope for Baez is that he's consistently inconsistent. You'd rather have that than have him be absolute dog shit the way he has been so far throughout the tenure of his contract.
Yep. Alex Lang has been struggling as of late. He's got a 4.13 ERA and a 1.24 WHIP.
Ooh, that's not
Today,
good
today he today
because
he stumbled.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's not good because he had been killing it recently as your closer and as a potential trade chip piece that you want to use at the deadline, and you know that's not going to look good for your value, for your stock rather, unless you sort things up in the next month or so. At least Rodriguez, he has an excuse. He's injured, so
yeah, yeah. So I would either sell or stand pat. I wouldn't buy yet.
oh no, nowhere near buying. Like I said, based on
No,
last week,
not at
I was in
all.
full on
Wouldn't buy.
sell mode. In fact, I may still be in sell mode even after this week. That hasn't changed my mind too much. But considering how certain players come back and perform, I would be tempted to not sell too much. But I'm still in sell mode regardless.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate part because the Tigers still find ways to lose. Although their record again 30-40 is not as terrible as it was last year.
No, I think we're on pace to at least get the 60, 65 wins, right? At this point, right?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I would say so.
There's
So
no way we're losing 100 games this year.
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens during the deadline. We'll stay on top of the Tigers. If there's nothing else to add, we'll move on to Red Wings. All right, sold. Going once, going twice, sold. The Red Wings. NHL draft predictions and free agent signing. We watched that one video of the Healthy Scratch Red Wings report with Kyle Busch, although he has both my Twitter handles blocked. I still watch. I still watch his YouTube. He's very analytic. He's still very analytical about, especially about the Red Wings. And I have all notifications turned on the Healthy Scratch YouTube channel. So that being said, my predict my two off-season targets, probably Kyle Busch's as well, are Alex DeBrincat and Ilya Barbashev of the Vegas Golden Knights. DeBrincat used previously played for the Ottawa Senators, so Ed, I would think these are at
I,
least
I
two
agree. I
two names
agree.
that
I
you would go with.
agree. I agree on DeBrincat. He is 25 years old. He is someone who has tremendous future ahead of him. To be very productive top lines, offensive weapon and goal scorer. Thing is, though, he's restricted free agent, so you have to wonder how much money can the Wings even be put up as an offer sheet, and will that be matched? More than likely, I'd say it would be. So unless the Wings potentially have to overspend, which you don't want to do, but you may have to if you want to get a guy like this, I don't see it's going to be a little bit more difficult than I would say to get to Brinket. Now another name that I could see or two that I could see come up would be Vlad Tarasenko. Vlad Tarasenko is one name that I did see being mentioned. He's young enough. He's at a position of need because I'm looking at in terms of the top priorities for the Red Wings. They need to get better scorers on the wing and someone that can help produce at or near the top line with Dylan Larkin. That should be your main concern. Surrounding your captain with the right and proper talent. Um, James Van Riemsdyk was another name that I saw because mainly due to the fact that there was murmurs or links of a potential deal happening at the trade deadline, and he is an unrestricted free agent. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Tarasenko and Van Riemsdyk, they are UFAs compared to uh, the Brincat, um,
Yep.
as well as another name or two I could see being mentioned if you want to do the whole bit of hey reunion radio here. Maybe Gustav Nyquist, but he's 33. Tomas Tatar, he's 30 or just turned 30 or so. I could see maybe one of those two being brought back um, on a lower than AAV type of deal, but I just don't see Eisman trying to throw too much money at that point. No, I do not see Tyler Bertuzzi coming back. I think he's much more content staying with a team that's ready to win now in Boston. Another thing I wouldn't mind getting is a right-sided defenseman because we're good on the left side. You know, obviously Sider is our top D man, but we need someone on that second unit with a defenseman to be efficient, at least on the right side. So that will be my look. And if you can find another decent backup goalie, that'll be quite keen or
Carter
depth.
Hart.
Yeah, possibly. Just someone that
Kyle Busch
uh,
threw that name out there too,
yeah,
and I agree with him. Shout out
yeah,
goes to you, Kyle.
yeah. But depending on who they get, they just need a reliable backup goaltender just in case, because you want to have
Yeah,
variety, but you know who so is your guy, but you want to have reliable backup just in case.
sure as hell isn't Nedeljkovic.
No, unfortunately not. So that's why
No.
you may have to go to the well of looking into the goaltender, who's available at goaltender in free agency. And as for the draft, it's really a crapshoot. Obviously, you would have loved to have been near the pick of the litter for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes, but no. Instead, it's those damn Blackhawks. So what can you do about it?
Right, but right, it is a lottery. It's not rigged or anything. It's just how the
No.
lottery works. So, yep, that, that's about it. So, what do we learn based on what we talked about tonight?
Well, I learned that the Pistons was going to do everything in their willpower to get Monty Williams, and through sheer stroke of luck, and in terms of um, thankful health reports, Monty Williams was going to be available enough to where the Pistons, he strongly was impressed by their offer and how they came after him, and so they got him. So the Pistons deserve credit for doing their due diligence on that part. And I also learned that the Tigers, they're not ready to pack it in. I think that should be credit to AJ Hinch instilling that in this team that no, things are not going well or where we want it to be right now. But this is nowhere near the type of time where you want to panic or pack it in or just quit on the season. There's still a whole lot of baseball left to go. Try to finish this year out as strong as humanly possible. So you want to see that type of perseverance, that type of character in your team, and that starts at the top with your manager, in my opinion. So that's what I've learned from both talking about the Pistons and the Tigers for this week.
All right, and how about the Red Wings?
Uh, they have ways to go. Honestly, the draft could be, uh, like I said, they got to do is pretty much stand pat. They may get a player that falls in their lap like usual. But I do have hope that they can do something productive with free agency. Eisman's going to have some money, and I think he has a plan in mention in terms of observing on the ice that lines up at least a little bit to what goals or what targets that we have just mentioned and discussed earlier.
Yep. Hopefully, Andrew Kopp particularly has a better season than he
Mhm.
had last regular season.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, Kopp did come on strong in terms of scoring goals and picking up assists the last 2 months in the regular season. Let's just hope he keeps picking that up.
Of
So
course.
that's all of what we've learned on this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon for our upcoming episodes. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at DT2Phillips and subscribe to my YouTube channel at DT2Phillips. Also on Twitch, DT2Phillips1984. And for my co-host, S. Smith, he's got a Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at EdSmith313 each. Business shoutouts go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward in Ferndale, Baldwin Family Healthcare of Cadillac. I am a new patient there. Thank you very much. Cadillac Nutrition. Download the Engage app to place an order for an iced or hot protein coffee, energy tea, or protein post-workout shake. Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt back there. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City, where I get my haircuts. The Edo Ramen House in Royal Oak, rated Detroit's best Japanese restaurant for consecutive years. Call 248-556-5775. Spelled that wrong. Apologies. That's 248-556-5775. Or EdoRamenHouse.com. Also on Instagram at Edo Ramen House. Delicious sushi and Filipino food. Again, 248-556-5775 or EdoRamenHouse.com. Also on Instagram at Edo Ramen House. Let's roll with it. Rolled ice cream in Cadillac, now branded with the Food Mafia and Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac. 231-884-8195 to reserve a reservation. And on Facebook, also on TikTok, I'll mention that later, United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan, and Yen Yoga and Fitness in Traverse City. We'll be back next time at some point. But next weekend I'll be away from here, so we'll probably talk in like just 2 weeks or so.
We'll keep you updated.
Yep. We will keep our audience updated as well. So
For sure.
For now, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips, and remember, we observe Michigan sports and we detect the truth. Ta-ta, hit them on the hind. Power to the people. We close our case.
Stay safe, everybody, and happy Father's Day to everyone out there.
Happy Father's Day as well. Stay aware. Stay knowledgeable.